Here's the 5-minute morning routine that made me a millionaire. You see, most entrepreneurs, when they start, they kind of get straight into it. But the problem with that is it's gung-ho. You're going into something not knowing what you're doing. And in some cases, that's great, because you're never going to figure out all the ideas. You're not going to have all the strategies, all the business plan ready. So one thing that I do, and I've done this for the last 20 years, is every single morning you want to get up and go for a walk. Why is this important? And by the way, it has to be on the crack of dawn. So just when sunrise is coming up. So why do I do this? Because they say that 5 minutes of planning can save you hours in execution. And if you look at what people are doing right now and why they're struggling so much to get things off the ground, they're struggling so much to grow, to scale, it's because they're doing something with no direction. What I find is when you wake up in the morning, you go for a walk and you start to think strategically, what happens is you start to see what's missing. You see all the things that are in place, but it's kind of all mixed up. But when you walk, you start to get clarity. That's why if you've ever had a shower, or when you're showering and you get ideas and downloads, or when you go traveling, you're flying around, what happens is we start to get these downloads, and that's actually what we want to do. When it comes to creating and doing more execution, you have to have the downloads that come to you on a daily basis. Because if you're not planning, if you're not getting things done, if you're not thinking strategically, you won't know what to do and you won't know what to execute. So I'm going to give you 3 things that I do on a regular basis. And again, this is what allowed me to create multiple 7-figure companies. If you're starting a business, you want to start incorporating this. So number 1, as you're walking, ask the question, what's missing? What am I not seeing? What's the one thing that everyone is doing but they're not seeing? One of the first companies that I started was in real estate. And I saw that in the industry, every time you want to buy a property, it takes too long, like 3 to 6 months before you complete. So there was something missing. And when I looked at that, I looked at this feeling of certainty that was missing. Now, if you look at Uber's a multi-billion-dollar app. But the reason why it's a multi-billion-dollar app is because it's got one thing in there. It's something is missing. If I call a cab now, I don't know if the cab's coming or not. But if I take up my phone and I can see, the car is 5 minutes away. That's the thing that was missing that created this billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company. So when I get up in the morning, crack of dawn, you get the sunlight, right? Starts, you're walking, you're getting your dopamine. It's going to your frontal cortex. I don't know what they call it, but it basically goes to this part of your brain. And when this is where your problem solving, where your critical thinking comes into place. So you have to make sure that you're asking the right questions. The better the question, the better the answer. You ask a lousy question, you get a lousy answer. When you walk, ask yourself the questions that you've been struggling with. Like if you sit down and ask yourself the question, why is this not working? And then you walk, you ask yourself the same question, you find an answer. Why? Because there's motion, there's rhythm, there is external things that are happening. As I'm talking to you now, I see lots of people, I see a big ship, you got the sea here. So understanding the things when you're asking the question gives you an incredible insight onto what should and shouldn't be done. That's number 1. The second thing, when you do this and you want absolute clarity in the things that you do, you have to make sure that you are executing in the right way. What do I mean? If you want to do something, there's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. But what if I told you can skip out step 3 and get to step 6? You want to think about the efficiencies, and as you're walking, you're creating motion, you're creating action, you're creating momentum. And a lot of the times when people try and do things, because they're always in it and they're in one place, it doesn't work. That's why you look at Steve Jobs, he would have walking meetings. Elon Musk have walking meetings. Bill Gates would go away every single year for 2 weeks by himself just to have that strategic thinking time. Because the more you think, the more answers you get. But if you don't get the answers, you don't ask yourself the questions, you can't get it. So I find that as I'm walking, I'm getting strategic thinking, I'm getting planning time, I'm knowing the answers are just flowing to me instead of me having to push for the answer. Third thing, which is the most important part of this entire process. If you just spend this little bit of time doing this one thing I'm going to tell you right now, you'll be able to get heaps and bounds of what I call quantum leaps. And that is, as you walk and you do this, the simple question you have to ask is, who do I know right now? Who can I contact right now? Who do I know that already has the answer to this question? And then all you have to do, and it sounds so simple, is to reach out to them. That's it. And that question that you have that you've internalized, if you ask that person that question, you get a different perspective. And I think that's why most people, especially entrepreneurship, it's a very lonely business. You want to do everything yourself, right? You don't want to become a hermit, like you're not going out, you're not networking, you're not flying around the world. You're not creating inertia. Inertia is the thing that produces success. And the third one, and I'm telling you this one, out of everything that I do this every single day, is the question that you're asking as you do this is you need to ask yourself another question. Who else knows the answer to this question? You see, when you're walking, you're trying to find answers, you don't know how to do things. The strategic thinking time gives you the know-how to know what question to ask. You ask the question enough times, you'll get an answer. But the problem with that is, because you don't have the wisdom and the experience at that specific point in time, you won't have the answer to it. So I always think about, okay, who do I know who has the answer to this question? And then I just reach out to the person. And I just say, hey, look, I'm going for a walk. I keep asking myself this question, but I'm just finding it really hard to get the answer. And I know that you're in this space. For example, I recently got a book deal. And I'm like, how to become a New York Times bestseller? And I was thinking to myself, then the question is, who do I know is already a New York Times bestselling author? And all I got to do is reach out to them, right? And ask them, what did you do to become a New York Times bestseller? And it's so interesting, the answer that I got. And they're telling me, okay, you gotta have a specific category, you're gonna have a distribution channel, you have your marketing, online, offline, your social media, and they told me all that stuff. So now as I'm designing my book and writing my book, I have this in mind. But the point here is that if you just do these things on a regular, instead of being gung-ho and just going for it all the time, you get to a point where you can now think strategically. And when you think strategically, that's what allows you to get the plan and set the plan to have clarity. Because what people do, they don't have the clarity. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They're just kind of doing it and trying to feel it out. And yes, to a point, that's great. But for entrepreneurship, we've got to pay really close attention to the little shifts that we move that make the big shifts in life. That's why universal timing is so important. That's why walking is so important. And walking with strategic thinking, with the sun, right? You add a bit of caffeine to that. Frontal cortex, as they say, as I mentioned before, getting that dopamine there means you have more execution. 5 minutes of the plan saves hours and hours and hours of execution. But it's asking yourself that question that you've been meaning to ask yourself, why is it not working? Why do I try so hard and not getting results? Why? So it's always the why. But when you understand the fundamental reason why it's not working, the answers will flow to you. The downloads will come to you. And when you have the downloads, the answers come by seeking it through other people as well. And I guarantee you, if you just reach out to the people that have the answer, or even if you don't know if they have the answer, could they have the answer? And by reaching out to that person, it says a few things. One is, who is this person? What did they do? How did they do it? How have they even got the answer in the first place? And how did they achieve it? You start asking questions around the question. And when you understand the answer to the question that will flow to you, you create synergy. And that's how you create success. So I've been doing this for 20 years. Going for walks, I'm currently in Sydney right now, so we're walking around the harbour area. I'm asking myself the questions. How do you find more unicorns? How do you find more companies that are $1 billion in valuation? What would you have to do in order for that to happen? So I was speaking to Julia, who's now holding the camera. She said, John, what's one of the businesses, what revenue target you want to get to? I said, 100 million. She said, no, there's no way we're going to do that. But the more we started to walk, the more we started to talk, we started to formulate the business plan. And just for your eyes only, in order for scale to happen, you need technology and AI, and you need great people. So now I'm not thinking about me, I'm thinking about who. I'm thinking about what. I'm thinking about what tech I can use. You see, you start asking different questions, you get different answers. And that's what forms the master plan. So if you're the type of person that you're stuck, you always want to think about something, you're not getting the right answers, you keep asking yourself, but you find this block. I'm running a lot of these events all around the world, business accelerators. I'll put a link below this and you can check it out. We're currently in Sydney right now, but we're flying all around the world. I'd love to invite you to some of these. Why? So we can mastermind and ask questions together. So we can formulate ideas together. There's a saying that says your network is your net worth. It's not who you know, but it's who knows you. And that's why when you ask that question, you get that shortcut. If you've ever heard of this methodology called the 6 degrees of separation, this is what it is. That's one of the reasons why I'm flying all around the world now to create these elite network where I can basically create these 6 degrees of separation instantly. And that's what I want for you. So if you love this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below if you have any questions, and check out the link, and I look forward to seeing you in a beautiful city. Remember to take massive action and check out this video here as well.